This is Start, Grow, Manage, where we help managed service providers achieve the impact, freedom, and wealth you imagined back when you started your company. At Start, Grow, Manage, our tools, practices, and processes help you engage, energize, and execute on building a business that empowers an extraordinary life. Learn more about our programs and how they can fuel your fire at startgrowmanage.com/learn more. Let's go.
Hello, and welcome to the Start, Grow, Manage podcast, where we explore the business issues that keep MSPs from growing. I'm Joe.
And I'm Jeff, happily sitting on the side of the mountain surrounded by snow. It's actually 6 a.m. here, Joe, and the sun has not come up yet, and it's dark and cold.
You look dark and cold. You know, most New Yorkers go to hot places for this time, you know?
For the winter, yeah. Well, Joe, I'm not a New Yorker, first of all. I just want to be very clear. I happen to live in New York, but I am not a New Yorker. And second, I ski, right? I ski. So none of this sandy, wet, beachy nonsense for me, you know? I want big mountains with lots of snow. And yesterday I was skiing. I fell in one place, and it was so deep that I fell into the snow, and I had to climb onto my skis and use them as like life preservers to get back up on top of the snow. But anyway, so yeah, I want mountains with lots of snow. I'm not a New Yorker. Just back to that.
Just to make that clear, right? Just to make
that clear. Yeah.
On that note of just possible insanity, which is all I could say about that you had to climb out using your skis. I like to, and that's nuts, you know? You had to put them up as a cross beam and pull yourself out of the snow.
Pull myself out of the snow.
Good God, that took a while to process. My brain was like, an old modem. So a question came up from our community last week, and it's one that comes up a lot. And it's, what do I do when I hire the wrong person?
Yeah. And you know, building teams is it's such a challenge for everybody, right? This is so key to what we do, but it's a real challenge to go from a technical person to hiring people and creating a team, right? And it's really one of the hardest things any business owner has to do, I think. You know, it's like we think it's all the technical stuff that's the hard stuff, but it's really the building of the team. And you know, we talk about this challenge as one of herding cats, but I actually think that cats are much harder to herd than humans.
I think it's the other way around, buddy. I think humans are much harder to herd than cats.
Oh, what did I say? Did I say cats are harder to herd than humans? Yeah. No.
Listen, I've herded kittens, and it's easier to herd kittens than it is to herd humans, man.
Yeah. No, I misspoke. I meant that that humans are harder to herd than cats. I really, you know, and to get us together, it's part of the reason why the vision and the mission and finding all this stuff is so important, because it's part of that glue that holds the team together, right?
Yeah. And what we've learned is that the wrong person really comes down to two issues, right? And those two issues are capabilities and values.
Mm-hmm. And
that's really where it's at. So we'll get to values in a moment, but if it's a capabilities issue, the question is, how well have you given instructions? How well have you documented your processes? Are you expecting this person to know what they're doing, right?
Right.
And I see that so much, like, oh, I'm paying this person so much money. They should know exactly what to do on day one.
Right.
And that's total insanity.
It's like having your skis and having to climb out of the snow. Yeah. No, but when it comes to capabilities, you know, we see that over and over. a lot of that is how well have you given instructions, and we think it's the wrong person. We think that we've hired the wrong person. So, for an example, a non-MSP example that comes to my mind is just this idea of bookkeeping. And I like bookkeeping because there's nothing more standardized than bookkeeping, I think, right? Like it's really, QuickBooks does most of the work for you. How hard can it be? You just categorize things. Right?
Yeah.
It's not that big a deal. And yet, I'm working with this accountant and we're hiring bookkeepers and they're just not working out. And the reason is that, the way that we do the books, like the process, how we gather the information from the people, how we put it into the QuickBooks, the reports that we generate, how we communicate, like all that stuff that goes around it, even how we categorize things depends on the business. It's business dependent. And we weren't training people on that. We were expecting them to know that. And part of it's the curse of knowledge, right? Part of it's this curse of, well, I understand it, so I expect everybody else to understand.
Dude, I was working with an MSP owner, right? And he was expanding he was hiring project managers, right? Yeah. And he'd get a project manager, and he was paying these guys $150,000, $165,000, and they'd last for like 8-10 weeks, and then they're gone. Right. They last for 8-10 weeks. And that's around the time that we started working with him. Right. So I come in and I say, okay, well, what's happening? He says, well, everybody, I just can't get anybody that's good. Everybody sucks. I'm paying them all this money and they should know exactly what to do. And they don't know what to do. And I say, okay, great. Right. So let's kind of document the process the way you think it should be, what a project manager should do. Right. So I said, I'll come in early. We decided to meet on a Saturday, and most MSPs know why we met on a Saturday because there's no time during the week to do anything. So we met on a Saturday morning, like at freaking 7:00 in the morning, right? And I say, okay, explain to me how you would like the projects run. And he says, oh, that's easy. Everybody knows that. Everybody knows it. Everybody knows that. Let me show you.
Right.
Boom. And he starts talking, right? And I'm documenting and I'm putting, okay. And then I ask more questions, and then I ask a couple more questions, and then we're going. And now it's like 3:00 in the afternoon, right? And I go, I'm about 18 or 19 pages in now, right?
Right.
And I go, this is what they should know in their head, like when they come to work for you.
And that's just the company specific stuff. Like that's just the stuff that he specifically wants from people.
And the light bulb went off for him. He's like, oh my God, I've been bringing these people in and expecting that they know. But it took actually putting it down for him to understand that's what it was. And it's brutal. And I know you see it, you've seen it all over the place in all kinds of different industries.
Well, I think, like I say, that part of that challenge is just this, the curse of knowledge, and I do see that all the time where Absolutely. What you're talking about, what you're expecting, hey, project management, I know what that is. I know what, what to expect from that. But the other side just doesn't know. There was this study that was done. I can't quite remember the specifics of it, but it was something like you tap out a song, like somebody would tap out happy birthday, and they tap it and they'd be singing in their head. They tap out happy birthday and they would think that it was really obvious what they were tapping out. And then there's somebody else would listen to the tapping and try and guess what song it was. Right. So, you're tapping out happy birthday to you and the other side has to guess that it's happy birthday. And they're all like really easy songs. Like none of this, it's not some sort of obscure song from like 200 years ago. They're all things that we sing every day. And it was something like they got it right a couple of % of the time. I'm getting the exact numbers wrong, but the person listening to the tapping could not figure out what song it was. And they actually did worse than if they just guessed random songs, right? But for the person tapping, it was so obvious what song it was. And that's the problem.
Come on.
I'm tapping it out. It's exactly right. But that's the curse of knowledge, right? In our heads. And we bring people into our business with that same sort of thing. It's like an 18-page SOP that we expect people to come with it built into their head.
It ended up being like a 50-page SOP. Yeah. We were only 19 pages in that day.
3 weeks later, Joe emerges from exactly the office.
What happened, right? Like we had to continue and then continue and then continue. And then it took about 3 weeks to get it all.
So I think what this means, right, is that if you've hired the wrong person, you kind of have to go back and look at your own processes first and say, do you have training in place? Do you have SOPs in place? Have you assigned them a mentor? Do you have an appropriate onboarding process to get people integrated into the way you do business? Because a lot of times, especially if you keep hiring the wrong person, if you hire and fire and hire and fire, and it's always the wrong person, it's probably you. At least a part of it is you.
Okay, well, I'm going to say, if you don't have the training in place, all of it is you. It's 100% you. Like, yeah, you might get lucky and you might get somebody who's a rock star who's been trained by somebody that thinks a little bit like you, and they might have some of the traits and some of the stuff, but you're not going to get exactly what you want because it's all you if you don't have the training in place.
Yeah, I get that. I do think, though, we need to get into the idea of the values.
Absolutely.
Right? Because you may also be really crap at hiring people. Like, there's also the element of being terrible at hiring people, and this is something that you taught me, is that you hire for values, right? You have to really make sure that you are hiring people who think and act and want to be a part of your business the way that you're structuring that business, and that all comes back to values. And you just can't get people to change their values. It's that classic round peg in a square hole. Somebody's going to get hurt, as you try and do that. It's not going to work, right?
And it's not. And to me, that's kind of like the thing that comes first, right? Like when you're interviewing, you have to really screen for those values. You have to have the scenario questions. You have to have all the things that comes before the training, right?
Yeah.
It comes before everything else because it's about selecting the person that is a fit for your organization. One of the MSPs that we're working now, they hire maybe one out of every 50 or 60 people that they interview, and they're down from 100 or 110. So they used to interview 110 to hire one. Now they've gotten their process, their pre-screening a lot better. So, and they're trying to get it down to 30. So they only have to interview 30 for one, right? But they're so picky. But when they hire somebody, their retention rate is through the roof. It's like a 90% retention rate. The person fits like a glove. And then they'd rather hire somebody that doesn't know how to do the job and fits the values and train that person over time, right? Than to hire somebody who's a rock star and is going to come in and blow everything up because they're not a fit for the culture.
Well, and that's one of the things that we didn't mention before. But one of the other problems, and I've seen this in businesses as well, where you hire somebody who's a real expert at something, and then they want to do things the way that they've done them in the past. Right. So when you do hire that project manager, or you do hire that tech, and then that tech is saying, well, I want to do, I know how to do this. I don't need to read an SOP. I don't need to go through 50 pages. I do it well. I do it the way that I'm used to doing it. I've built up my knowledge on this. This is why you hired me, because I'm an expert. And when you're relying on that expertise rather than your own thing, or when you hire somebody who's very capable, you're relying on their expertise rather than your processes, it throws everything that you're doing off. So that idea of hiring for values and training capabilities is much more powerful, because you can make sure that people do things the way that you want them done. It comes back to the idea that you have to define the way you want things done. You can't leave that for chance.
100%.
Now there is the chance that you have hired somebody, and that person is the wrong person. They don't fit with the values. They don't have the capabilities. They can't make it work. It's not going to work with your company, right? And in this case, there's no easy answer. You got to just move on.
Yeah.
And you've got to do it earlier rather than later. So it's one reason why we always say have a 90-day trial period and get to know somebody before you commit to that full-time employment or to the long term. Because if they're the wrong person and they're not fitting, you have to let them go, and you have to do it quickly.
And that's really the thing, right? Because if you don't do it quickly, it will impact your whole organization. It will, people will start to lose interest. Good people will leave. I see this happen all the time. Somebody comes in, they're the wrong fit, and they start rubbing your good people the wrong way. And then if they're really good at what they do and you start defending their actions, those people, your good people, will start exiting the organization. What you'll discover is if somebody comes in and they're the wrong fit, they're rubbing everybody the wrong way, the second that you let that person go, everybody will chip in to cover that work until another person comes in.
Yeah.
Right. Because they'll be so happy that person's gone that it'll be like a rallying thing. And, you can say, look, we heard you. We got all the complaints. We heard you. And now this is done. This is what we need from you now. And they will come together and do that work with you.
No, I think that's true. And we've seen that a number of times. So I think, what that means is, if you have hired the wrong person, and they're the wrong person, let them go early.
Yeah.
But most of the time, in most of our experience, hiring the wrong person means that you're hiring, something's broken in your business. So, our recommendation is really to revamp your hiring to focus on values, improve your onboarding, and improve your documentation of your business, your standard operating procedure. Because that's how you retain people. That's how you find the right people. That's how you integrate them into your team. That's how you make sure that you are all working on the same, or you're working in the same direction. You're working together, and that's ultimately what's so important about hiring and building a team.
Excellent. Very good.
So I think that's all that we've got for today.
Except for that one thing.
Not that one thing. Yeah. Coming up, we're going to have we have a few interviews that we're trying to schedule. So we should have some really cool conversations about cybersecurity. We've got a sales conversation coming up. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm hoping that for our next episode, we have cybersecurity, and that should be an interesting one. So look for that. And other than that, Joe, go ahead.
Remember that you are loved. We'll see you next episode.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks for joining us, and a special thanks to our subscribers. Consider becoming one right now and tap into our insights and instincts to help drive your business vision and success. Remember, you didn't start your business to feel frustration. You started it for freedom. We can help you discover the impact, freedom, and wealth you always imagined. Learn more at startgrowmanage.com/learn more.